Today's IQ Plus video revolves around this question. What if all the women in the world suddenly disappeared and only one woman remained? Would men start a war over the last remaining woman? Maybe she would be seen as a saint, or her life would turn into a tragedy, used either as an object of lust or simply as a tool for humanity's survival and reproduction. If there are no women, will homosexuality become the new social norm? And most importantly, can humanity survive without women? Or is this the end of us? Stick around until the end of the video because we're going to answer all these questions and find out what fate awaits this woman. Imagine half of the world's population, all women, suddenly vanish. Families fall apart, emotional bonds are broken, and society plunges into a deep psychological and social crisis. Women don't just play an emotional role. They are the pillars of humanity's psychological, social, and economic balance. Nearly 47% of the global workforce is female. Without them, millions of jobs vanish. About 70% of elementary and high school teachers are women, meaning education collapses. In healthcare, over 70% of nurses and general practitioners are women. Without them, hospitals quickly shut down. In developing countries, 41% of the agricultural workforce is made up of women. Their absence leads to a severe drop in food production. Modern economies depend on joint collaboration. Losing this participation causes a severe recession in key industries. Now, only one woman is left. She neither has the ability nor the resources to make up for all this loss. But now, a more important question arises. Which country or group will get their hands on this woman? Will a massive war break out to possess her? First, war begins. Men and different groups will do anything to access the last woman. The conflicts start on an individual level, but quickly escalate into major wars between tribes, countries, and even world powers. Why? Because that woman is the only path to continuing the human race. Whoever controls her, controls the future of humanity. If no war breaks out, societies might decide to build a protective system to prevent conflict, maybe by legalizing access to the woman, or even creating a lottery system. But let's be honest, such a system would hardly remain fair. Rules will be broken and the strong will impose their power on the weak. And this is just the beginning of the problems. Bigger crises are on the way. The next problem is violence and abuse. In a lawless world, the chances of rape or exploitation are extremely high. The woman could be turned into an object for sexual satisfaction or reproduction, no longer seen as a human. Even if she's under protection, there's no guarantee that power-hungry groups will leave her alone. But on the other hand, some societies might treat her like a saint, someone destined to save humanity. They might show her great respect and protect her as a sacred symbol. New religions might even emerge that consider her divine. Her destiny reaches two extreme paths. She either becomes a sacred queen that humanity respects, protects, and uses to continue the species, or she is seen merely as a reproduction tool. It all depends on society and which group wins the war to claim her. Meanwhile, a massive psychological crisis builds among men. Without natural sexual relationships, aggression, depression, and abnormalities increase. The darkest part of this scenario is the abuse of vulnerable groups. Children, beautiful men, or those with feminine appearances could become victims. History has shown us that in times of lawlessness, violence and abuse skyrocket. Now another question. Will homosexuality become widespread? Most likely, relationships between men will increase, but not necessarily due to true attraction, rather out of pressure and lack of other options. Personally, I choose the holy woman scenario. Let's imagine a protective group wins the war and saves the woman from all threats. Now, she continues the human race under this group's protection. But the big question remains, can humanity survive without women? To reproduce, we need both a man and a woman. If all women disappear, natural reproduction stops completely. Each year, around 60 to 70 million people die, and with an aging population, that number will increase. If no births happen, the current human generation will vanish in no more than 120 years. In the first decade, the death rate stays stable, around 60 million annually. But after a few decades, as the global population ages, that number rises to hundreds of millions per year. Eventually, about a century later, the last remaining humans will die and humanity will go extinct, unless that one woman can save us all. Now let's look at a possible reproductive model. Suppose the remaining woman gives birth every year from age 15 to 45. That's a 30-year window, resulting in 15 children. If 7 of them are girls, they'll reach childbearing age at 15 and continue the cycle. Assume the mother gives birth to her 7 daughters between age 15 and 30. When she's 30, her oldest daughter is 14, and the others are younger. Once each girl turns 15, the second generation begins. And just like that, the reproduction chain starts. By the time the mother is 45, her first generation daughters reach childbearing age. Each of them starts having kids too. Let's assume each has between 6 to 12 kids. That adds up to 63 children, about half of them girls. Add to that the next 15 children the original mother had between ages 30 and 45, and the number of girls reaches around 45, some of whom are still under 8 years old. By the time the original mother hits menopause, the first generation takes over the task of continuing the species. This cycle continues generation by generation, and within 5 generations, the population surpasses 3,000 people. Note, in this scenario, we haven't even factored in death rates or twins. Now let's consider the fate of the original men by year 60. If a man was 15 years old in year 0, he's now 75. Most men over 60 are probably dead or near death. Even if they're alive, their fertility is severely diminished. So newer generations must marry among themselves. In Generation 1, daughters can marry non-related men from the original population. But in Generation 2, most of the original men are gone or infertile. So men from Generation 1 or 2, relatives, become the only option. By Generation 3, cousin and even sibling-like marriages become unavoidable. As these familial marriages increase, genetic diversity drops. By Generations 3 and 4, hereditary diseases and genetic disorders rise sharply. Without scientific intervention, like genetic engineering, this process inevitably leads to major problems, maybe even extinction. You might ask, what about science? Artificial wombs? Cloning? The problem is, these technologies are mostly still theoretical. So far, they've only been tested in limited animal trials. And with what we currently have, we're still far away. But if such a scenario were to occur, one thing is certain. All the world's scientists, biologists, and researchers would mobilize. History has shown us that when humans face real crises, they somehow perform miracles to save themselves. Maybe in this case, they'll do the same. Maybe in this crisis, technologies like human cloning, artificial wombs, or gene editing become practical. Or maybe they fail, and humanity comes to an end. But one thing's for sure, the future of the human race depends on that one remaining woman. So the ultimate question is, can society protect her like a queen? Or will she and the entire human race be destroyed by greed, violence, and lawlessness? What do you think? How will humanity's future unfold in this scenario? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and tell us in the comments, which outcome would you choose? The sacred queen or dark, brutal world?
I think fast, I move smart, mind so sharp, I tear worlds apart. No luck, just brain and guts, call me what I am, IQ plus. I think fast, I move smart,